I'm thrilled with the amount of people here. This is terrific. Basically, going back to like 72, 73, and my friend the mayor, that's his birthday. This happened that long ago, Ted. Okay, and it's been a lost story for years. Okay, in 1986, our own Barbara Doucette, who was a great friend. She went and put together a thing with myself and Denise Martin. Denise Martin, who I will mention more than once. Denise ended up as being the chair and co-chair with Glenda Ritterhouse, okay, of the group after we put it all together. And basically, we had got together, gave Barbara a ton of stuff. She did the first Brooksby days. This was in 1986. And then really nothing's ever happened since then. Nobody's ever gotten a speech on how it was saved. Nobody ever credited the Save Brooksby Committee, who you will be quite impressed with when you get through this stuff for all this time. And until Mike Bonfanti, Andy, Ann got together and said, let's have this speech, which I was like thrilled with. And so I went and got in touch with Denise Martin, who will go down as the leader, okay, years afterwards. She was the prime person that took over. I was a novice, so myself, and all the campaigns I've done since then, this was my first ever doing anything. So I was learning from this young lady who was the head of the Peabody Environmental Control Commission, which was something that we had at that time. Tony Adamopoulos, one of our members there, was the previous Peabody Environmental Control Commission. And basically, she was an organizer. And so it originally started, I'm going to go back and say, I was with the Peabody JCs, which was a small group of professional people, young people that used to do things. We take projects on. I was always kind of looking for a project. I had just gotten out of the Navy, just been married, moved from Lynn to Peabody, which Peabody became my new home, and it has been ever since. And basically, I was getting involved in things. Since I had been in the Navy, I got used to being involved in things and stuff like that. So basically, when the Wolfel Estate, which later became known as the Arboretum, okay, went down, we used to have great functions there when it was a Wolfel Estate. Rolling green, beautiful trees. It was a genuine arboretum. When they sold that for condominiums, now, they did an excellent job, okay? But my thought at that point was, how do you sell an arboretum for condominiums? It just, you give away something that beautiful, a park, it's like making condominiums out of a museum. So that kind of irked me. And so they were coming around and they were doing different things throughout the city. It was really getting to be built. Bear in mind, West Peabody at this time didn't even have sewerage. Okay, everything was all becoming the thing, and that's why the Environmental Control Commission was on. We had a Conservation Commission, but the Environmental Control Commission came on. And at that time, there was a person who I didn't know, and I still really have never met her. And her name was Elaine Goodman. So some of the people up around Brooksby area would know who she was. She started a local petition amongst the abutters. And she went around and she gathered that. I, coming from the Crow Village area, started a citywide thing. So the first citywide petition started with me. And when I say the petition, I had papers with people's signatures on it, okay? You didn't know. No address, no ward, nothing. Just, we the below people were in favor of saving Brooksby Farm. And I would take it wherever I went, and we had a few people that went around and stuff like that. Most of the meetings were held in Tanner's Cafe down on Foster Street. And that was kind of like central. It was a central area for young teachers and professionals, this one little bar with no windows. So, but everything was run out of there. So we started down with there, and so I got this thing going. Now I'm looking for somebody who knows politics in Peabody. I had been, not much into politics at that time, and basically Barry Feinstein, the local attorney there, Barry was in the JCs with me, so I went to Barry, okay? Now Barry and I started planning stuff. I bought the bumper stickers. Actually, I bought this one. There was another one that came by later with the duck on it. And we started getting the bumper stickers out. And then Barry said, well, let's have a meeting, a public hearing. So I hired Cy Tenney Hall, and Cy Tenney Hall brought a hall full of people, which again was amazing. I had gone to Deputy Chief Bill Mahoney, who's all his fire stuff is all over in that fire building first. So he was at the meeting. Barry and I sat up front. This young lady named Denise Martin was there. She had written me a letter after that meeting encouraging me, but saying, this will never happen. It won't happen in Peabody. It's just not going to happen. Peabody will develop Brown's Pond. This is what all the stuff we were getting. Then we said, well, I'm from Lynn, I'm too stupid, I'm going ahead. So we did. So Barry and I had this meeting, and basically at that meeting, we heard all sorts of people speaking in favor of what we were doing. We had Bill Toomey, who was supposed to be giving the talk with me, rest in peace. Bill was out there with Councilor Jim Brown, okay? And it turned into a political thing with Bill and Jim hammering Barry, okay? Because Barry was the young white suit up and coming, and I'd say this right in front of him because we're friends, always with a nice suit right in front. And his ideas were out there, but they were going after Barry. And I had to stop that and pull it around and say, no, let's get back to the subject, not how Barry's going to finance it, not how this is going to happen, etc. From there, we thought that meeting went very successful. We got people that signed up with us and encouraged us and went on from there. We then went to a meeting at Judy Selesnik's house. Judy was new to the city at that time. Basically, she was holding like a forum for 2 ward councilor candidates, Jim Brown and Gil Rosenthal, okay? So we went to Judy's house, and there was a large amount of people there, and the forum consisted a lot of the Brooksby item, because she lived just down the street from the house, from the farm. So that night, and Judy was telling me the other day that basically she feels that Gil Rosenthal lost that election because he did not support the farm. And Jim Brown won, and Jim definitely had supported the farm and went on later to be one of the major players in getting a lot of the money and stuff like that cobbled together. So then it was on. From there, we started with the meetings. At that point, I'm going to say that's probably when Denise and Glenda and Carol Lundgren and, they kind of took over, and then we got Billy and the Medinas, and we broke into ward captains, precinct captains. It was an unbelievable political organization. One thing that I'm going to, go jump ahead here. We would put in a meeting 300 people every time. Now, I can tell you, there hasn't been another city meeting of any type of protest at City Hall with 300 people. And sometimes we had to turn people away. We've had large things brought out 100 people, or 150 people at the auditorium. We had 200 people for the planning board. So we started organizing with the things we did, the brochures. This is some of the original brochures. We did 16,000 of these and passed them out and ran out. Not counting phone calls. On the back, it stated each ward had to put in the sticker on it of the ward councilor and their phone number. Okay, so you would have the people call their ward council and with the phone number, and then we would ask people if they were in favor and could we talk with them and would they be willing to do this? Would they be? And it was all young people, all over the city. We had over 900 bumper stickers on cars. As we went into public hearings, okay, we had app armbands. Okay, these were all homemade, but we bought up the entire supply of those on the whole North Shore of the apples. Basically, we would come to an event in like this. Now, this is the Medina family, Rich and Ann Medina, right here in front. This was Denise Martin's car. Okay, an apple a day keeps flatly away. Okay, is what it says in the back. We had ads that we paid for, and this was each ward. People would sign up, and we put the ads in. We raised money. One of the things we raised money was we did a 50s dance, better known as a grease dance at that time. And I'm saying, it's not 50s dance, that's just a few years ago. And I ended up being the DJ. That was one of the fundraising things we did. So I got some speakers from the local drive-ins I gave away as prizes and stuff like that. We had it at St. John's Church. We actually made a few $100s on it, which enabled us to buy more of the bumper stickers and things like that because people were constantly coming to it. To that dance came Frank Hatch, who was the environmentalist Republican state rep from Beverly, okay? Major leader, the Hatch Act, things like that. And Bill Saltonstall, who was the major senator. They came to the dance. They're from Beverly, but they came over to support us, okay? Freddie Winthrop was a big supporter. Freddie Winthrop was the head of the agriculture and stuff like that, commissioner of agriculture, thank you. And Tony Adamopoulos, we had all sorts of people, lawyers, working this thing to get all these funds in, which, by the way, the total purchase was actually completed in 1976. 74 is when it was voted and passed, okay? And that was passed on an 8-2 vote at that time, which is an amazing thing to do. It was purchased for $1.3 million. So what we did was when we bonded this money, because get money from the feds and stuff like that, we took some other pieces and put them in into the thing, and we actually picked up all the open space that was available at that time under that bonding. And Dick, you correct me if I go off here. I think it was $600,000 from the feds.
50% from the federal and 25 from the state.
Okay, so we paid 25% of the 1.3 to acquire. I'm going to use the figure, you see it anywhere from 216 to 275. I'm going to use the figure like 260 because we put in some other later on. So now it's appraised for $24 million. That's one of the wisest investments the city's ever made. Some of the things we have in here, I have letters from educators at the high school who were talking about how it could be used. We had Conservation Commission was in favor of it. Lynn Item was writing things. I'm not sure Salem News did, but there was several papers, Globe, et cetera, all got into it, recommending to take Brooksby. Now, there was a battle going on because Mr. Flatley, who was a very good businessman and a very good developer, if the thing had to go, let it go to Flatley. He would have done a great job. But the thing of it is he started out, he originally wanted 1,350 condominiums. Well, once he hit the wall on that, it came down to 750 and donating 60 acres of land over towards the high school. So that looked good to some people. A couple of councils saying, well, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And we just kept going on. To his great credit, the mayor, Nick Maroulis, went like this. And without his doing that and his help, this never would have got done. Nick was being pushed constantly. What's your position on this? What's your position? Okay, he had Herb Selesnik, Judy's former husband there, and he put him in charge of doing all the investigating. He was a community development person at that time. So basically, there was all sorts of pushing against Nick. Then started a group of about 12 people. I'm not going to say their names, it's all in the stuff, And one of them later was arrested. But it was part of the thing of, anti. And you wouldn't believe some of the things that were coming on and why we should not do it. Because it was going to be a playground for West Peabody. And we shouldn't be doing stuff for West Peabody. Okay, this was very common at that time. The downtown Peabody versus West Peabody. Okay, so this went on, and then they started about the undesirables. The undesirables will be bussed in regularly. They will be actually coming from buses in certain areas and cities that I don't even have to name because we all know what names that they were using, okay? So this went on, and during the time, Mr. Flatley hired a lawyer. My wife's going to kill me for saying this, but George Anastas, who was one of, a West Peabody person, a terrific lawyer, et cetera. Fine gentleman. Well, he was representing Flatley. Meanwhile, I'm out pushing this whole thing. George Anastas worked for Rackerman, Sawyer, and Brewster in Boston, one of the oldest, finest, firms around. Well, so did my wife. And I never knew it because as a perfect employee she never told me that, George, because it would be like a conflict. So she never told me. And they knew I was, but she never told me on that. So I wouldn't like back off and, maybe do something for her or something like that. And so it went through, and Flatley was a gentleman during the whole thing. I did get a threat at one point. Someone called and said they're going to break my legs. And so I tried to find a meeting place where we could meet, and we could see who was bigger, him or me, and it never kind of went away. I remember the guy's name. He was a former football player that worked for Flatley, but we just, yeah, I didn't say it, so you know. And so we did meet up someplace and we kind of sized each other up. And needless to say, I never did get my legs broken. But basically, some of the news later on in the period, we had in '86, the Environmental Affairs Secretary, James Hoyt, came up to visit Peabody and announced that Brooksby Farm, and here we see Mr. Hoyt with Mayor Teresian, was named one of Massachusetts' special places. A huge honor. There's very few places that are named that. In the article, it does say, besides Mayor Teresian, that Mike Schulze and Denise Martin were in there. So we had been invited. We got invited by Barbara. So basically, some of the facts that there was very few people that wrote against it, just the 12 people. I have some of the letters. By the way, most of the stuff I have here is from Denise Martin, who is now in Vermont. She works for Tote Tours. She left probably 78, 80. She went away. Glenda Ritterhouse went somewhere in the 70s, and we don't know where. Those two would be, the two number one people of the committee. Okay, we all formed afterwards, but after Barry and I got it going and got it moved and got it started, then they took over and they were the organizers. Now, during this time, and I'm going to take a quick look through this, there was the best run article I'd ever seen on it with Barbara Gordon, who's here. Barbara Gordon wrote, it was the Zone magazine, and she did a story that, matter of fact, I gave a copy to Mayor Betancourt. I said, this is the best version of what happened, because she interviewed everybody. And, thank you very much, because you did a wonderful job on it. And I'm going to try and use this as kind of like a staple. There's, good pictures of the farm back then. I also get stuff here from Denise, too, the original letter she wrote me. And then, this is what I've had to deal with, folks. See this group of papers with little typings on it? That's what Denise gave me as to the people that were involved. Okay? So over the years, I've tried to put it together. Most of them I never knew who they were. Here's the photos she had sent me. This stuff that's mine is going to the Historical Society. Unfortunately, Denise wants to keep hers, and I have to send it back. But this is, in the middle is Denise Martin, okay? And she had these black and white photographs that she took up there and sent me the letter. And let me see, we got the amount. I've been trying to get the actual bond. I called Smuz to find out what it's actually written in the final taking, because we had some things, it was taken for conservation and passive recreation only. And from what I remember, if we should violate that at any time, we would have to pay back the feds on this with interest. okay? Those are the things that I remember, because at one time, Council Sosimo wanted to put a train up here, and it got shut down pretty quick, you know? Actually, I don't think it's a bad idea, but it got shut down pretty quick. But one thing I did notice in there, and I don't know whether it got forced out or not, was, and you know about this, Mayor, is the request for a kids' park. Some of the early stuff that I had in there stated that a kids' park would be allowed. So that could be something that could be looked into. I just, don't have the final wording of everything. I'm trying to get it from Smuzz. Smuzz was in court all day, so, and I got the motions from Tim Spanos, and that included one thing I would like to see, that it had Elaine Goodman's petitions brought in. So those were accepted. I think Barry had at one time, and Barry was supposed to be here, by the way, so I don't know what happened, but you probably had to do another television appearance. But basically, that had 1,600 signatures that he had gathered on just by himself. So I'm thinking at this point, does anybody have any questions? Yep, way back there.
Yeah, would you repeat what you said as far as the use? I didn't get the term, recreational, you said.
Oh, passive and/or recreation only.
Okay, I thought you said some word that was foreign.
Yeah, conservation,
So what would they mean by that exactly, like what ideas?
passive means like, passive, not active, Like, no basketball hoops or something like that,
Walking paths and things like
No, walking path is passive, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
that? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and even the hay rides are passive. And, yes,
What about the apple orchards? When was this made into a farm with all the fruit?
it was actually pretty much always a farm, going back into the 1600s. As you know, you got the two father-son houses down here. I think that's the only two father-son homes in the country, correct? Period? There was some question about somebody in Dedham had a father-son too, but one of them was 1640, okay, so it was an apple orchard then, and then it continued on. And one of the things is the amount of different types of apples that are here too. I know they don't have the Danvers apple, okay, for people who know what that is, but everything else I think they do have. And we had Christmas trees, they have strawberries, blueberries, pears, raspberries, etc. And another quick little funny note, Jamie O'Brien, who was the farm manager for years, on my porch, my wife was related to his father. And his father was on, he said, you people come in and you think you could do anything there? That's not going to happen in Peabody. And so here, Jamie became the farm manager for several years, and now is Topsfield manager, but he had been up here with the Boy Scouts all the time. So it was very special. It's not that his father didn't want it, it's that he didn't think it would ever happen. Yes, Tony?
My memory is that the first time the concept that this could be kept was Richard Walker. Richard said, Richard was one who always thought out of the box. He was never one to say, oh, can't do that. It was always, well, how can we do it?
Yeah.
And I believe it was Richard who said, why can't we keep it?
Major player,
Major.
no doubt about it. And the famous Alan Tobbett, who was on the planning board at that time, city engineer, et cetera, big supporter. Jim Brown, ward councilor, big with the legal stuff on it. Someone informed me Dan Kulak did a ton of the stuff. I talked to him, he's got a bad knee or something, he just had operated. He couldn't come, but, they were all part of doing the bonding and everything. Jack Murphy was, from West Peabody, came down to tell the person in Ward 1, like, yeah, it's going to be a playground for us. It was great. I mean, that hearing, and you were there, most all of you folks were there. We had people with bushel baskets of apples. As you came in the door, my wife pinning it on Nick Maroulis. Okay, so as you came through the door, they would pass out an apple and, ask for your vote and see if you wanted to put on an armband and give you one of the flyers here, And we had all these facts in here, Might be fake news, but, they were facts. They were facts to us, and nobody could tell you any different because we couldn't prove it. Yes?
Who was living here at the time that owned the farm?
Mrs. Eleanor Smith. Okay, so it was
The Felton House?
the Felton House. Matter of fact, Andy, could you, I'm going to ask Andy, because Andy once owned this whole farm. If you could just to give you a quick description of how your end went down.
Oh, okay.
Yep, the historical side end.
I was a young teacher at the time at the high school, and three of my colleagues, Mr. Medina being one, Linda Ritterhouse was on the board, and Paul DeCourcy, who was a neighbor up here, got me going as an interest in saving Brooksby Farm. I believe it was the first project I got my kids involved in, and we had kids running out with petitions and all of that stuff. I also was on the board of the Historical Society, and I think I'm the only board member that's still on the board all these years. And I do remember when they came and spoke to us, and we basically said we didn't think we could save Brooksby Farm. But after they left, we had another meeting. And Bill Mahoney Sr. was very instrumental in pushing us forward. Why don't we see if we can do something about saving Brooksby Farm? It does have historic houses, that kind of thing. So one of the ladies on the board, and I don't remember whether it was Frances Regal or Ruth O'Keefe, knew Mrs. Smith. And they set up a meeting with Mrs. Smith, and it was at night, and I remember it was the first time in my life I drove down the street, and I remember saying to myself, boy, is it dark down here. And I remember I think the first one there, and I knocked on the door, and Mrs. Smith answered, and she was a very interesting lady. She said, you want to check the plumbing? And I said, pardon me? And then she said, Metropolis, are you from the Levant? And I looked at her and I said, I know what the Levant is, but I'm from Peabody. Well, she liked me, I don't know why, but she did, and we had a meeting, and we went back to the Historical Society, and we said, I think we can work with those guys about saving the farm. And we then got on board, and Mrs. Smith became a strong supporter of the Brooksby Farm. And I can tell you a couple of things that I think are kind of cute from a personal basis. One time I asked her after it was all said and done, I said, Mrs. Smith, I know you weren't going to let Flatley build, and I know you weren't going to put a golf course, and that was another thing they talked about up at Brooksby Farm.
Listen to this.
I said, what would you have really done? And she said, I was thinking solar energy. And I looked at her and I said, solar energy? I said, I know what solar is and I know what energy is, but I can't put the two together. And she said, we're going to put this big plant up and we'll generate power. And I said, wow. I said, that sounds pretty good. So that was that. And the second thing, she got really mad because the process wasn't going as well as she thought it should go. And she wrote me a letter giving me Brooksby Farm, which I still have. It's in my safety deposit box, and someday my kids are going to find it and say, "Boy, was that a jerk? He could have had it all." And when we ultimately purchased the land, I drove it to City Hall, and she asked me to pick up the check for her. and I hand-delivered it to her, and she was a sweet old lady. She was a really, really nice person. But she was really pleased to save it, both as a farm and about 10 acres belong to the Historical Society. This barn, the houses, the orchard house are all part of the Historical Society. And I think it's the crown jewel of Peabody, and it's certainly the crown jewel of the Historical Society. So, thank you.
I did want to bring out that point because her husband, Austin Smith, back in the 60s, had stated he wanted to do this in solar development. And I wanted to say that so the mayor could hear it, you know. Just an interesting thought. Here's something from that long ago saying this would be a good place for solar. So it's just something that, you know, we brought up. Some of the people have to go, so anybody have any questions? Any more questions? Yes?
Is the farm itself self-sustaining financially? Or?
Yes. Yeah, it makes money every year. And now we own Tilly's Farm, which is 11 acres down off of Linfield Street. And we own the Zelski property, which is another 7 acres, which was a farm also. And Tilly's is active, and they're tying the two of them together now between Tilly's and we absolutely, I was talking to Freddie Winthrop, I'm on the Essex Heritage Commission, and I was telling Freddie at the meeting, Mike, right, you know, I was saying, do you know of another city that's got this much farmland? You know, I mean, Lynn, we had, you know, the Lynn Woods in the beach, but nothing like this, no farmland or anything. You know, Danvers has got farmland, but I don't think anywhere near this size. We got 3 in an urban development. You know, it's really, really impressive, you know, to be able to have this. And everybody should think back and thank the Brooksby, the Save Brooksby Committee, because without a doubt, that was the strongest outcome I'd ever seen in any kind of a movement in the city, you know, whether to build new schools, do this, whatever. Yes, you had another question back there?
Yeah. Thank you for being part of the committee, and thank you for saying this.
Oh,
I have a silly question, and maybe something else.
Yep.
I was an athlete, as Mr. Bonfant told me, but I always wondered, when did they start running cross-country in all the books?
oh, that stuff all started pretty much as soon as we took over. They had cross-country, they had cross-country skiing, Christmas tree cutting, you know, apple orchards. We still face some, you know, back then there was some problems with vandalism. You know, you still get that, but every farm gets that. If you go online and you look up Brooksby, you know, on the 5 stars and stuff like that, some people get mad because you charge them per person to go pick apples. Well, whatever it is, it works, you know. So the thing of it is you get a chance to go out. It's a great outing. We used to bring the kids up when they were kids, and they'd go out picking apples for the day. Everybody got to walk through. There's 2 ponds out there. I've never been to them, and they are stocked, I believe. Yeah, they're stocked, so people want to fish. I did the Christmas tree cutting one time. I couldn't get the sap out of my hands for about 3 weeks, so I never would do that again. But, you know, the people that run the farm and stuff like that, I'm with the Antique Car Club, and we have an event up here, and they have a corn boil, and now with the zoo and everything, and we actually do need Larry the llama back, because it was great fun, but all the kids really get a kick out of it. It's a great outing, and it's just great that, you know, people are still supporting it. The mayor and the previous mayor, you know, both continued on with it and have enhanced it. So it's just a huge asset. Yes, Dick?
2 thoughts, Mike. Number 1,
I'll give you one thought.
my granddaughter, who's 2, had her first exposure to picking apples last Sunday. So I can tell you, for first hand, now 3 generations of my family has enjoyed. We came up here when I was a young kid in the 1950s. Other thing I wanted to mention was that the founding of Essex Heritage back in the early 1990s, and I was one of the first commissioners that did that.
Yeah.
Farming in Essex County was not one of the goals they had. They had 3 other goals that had nothing to do with farming. And when I mentioned at a board meeting about Brooksby Farm, that's all that we had then. It was very nice with Clark Farm and Danvers and other farms. But that's not what we're here about. And for a couple of years, it was kind of provoked. And all of a sudden, the farm took on an interest around 2001 or 2, which I was delighted with. And it since it has blown way over to the delight. But at the beginning, there was a resistance about accepting farms as part of our.
Well, Tommy Leonard founded it, you know, and basically, when Tommy appointed me on it, the Essex Heritage Commission. And since then, we had a meeting here with Mayor Betancourt with the Essex Heritage thing that was really definitely like, the Essex Heritage is this great group that handles the entire Essex County with anything to do with history on it, et cetera. It's a group of very influential people, and it's quite a thing. But we're on the special places. We're also on the Massachusetts special places. And yes, Mayor.
I'm going to be very brief, but I did want to thank Mike for the presentation today. I knew a little bit, but he really opened my eyes to the whole process and how everything took place. A lot of the names he mentioned are people that have helped the city in numerous ways, and that was just forward thinking that has meant so much to our city. Brooksby Farm really is the crown jewel of our community, and I think it's inspired other efforts that we've made. And I did want to mention Tilly's Farm that was mentioned by Mr. Schulze. And I want to give credit to Mayor Bonfanti. Tilly's Farm was in danger of potentially being sold, and that's a beautiful piece of property over in South Peabody. I thought it was more than 11 acres. I thought it was maybe 18 or so, but it's a beautiful piece of land off of Lynn Street, and we took ownership of it this year. It was purchased 10 years ago under Mayor Bonfanti's leadership, as well as support from other people. But that vision to look ahead has saved us a beautiful piece of property, and I think it was inspired by a lot of what happened in Brooksby Farm. And now we have a farm, and I believe we are the only municipally owned and municipally operated farm. And now we have 2. And it is a significant moneymaker for the city. Tilly's Farm, now we're working on building a relationship between Brooksby and Tilly's. We have a beautiful farm stand, a wonderful farm stand over on Tilly's Farm. Some of you may have gone over there to sell all kinds of apples and all kinds of produce, and it's really wonderful for our community. But I did want to just mention that effort by Mayor Bonfanti, as well as the Zelston property, which we are going to have as open space. And it's come up, as you've maybe seen, there's a number of farms that are always advertising for this and that, and a lot of them have become commercialized as ways to raise money. I've always kind of felt that Brooksby Farm should stand as it is. Certainly I love festivals here or there. That is a wonderful addition. But I didn't want it to become like some of the other farms that you see where there's constantly events, and it really doesn't, kind of loses the feel of a farm. To me, Brooksby is a very peaceful, wonderful place to be. Families, I brought my kids over to see the animals. We brought out pumpkins, Christmas trees in the past, and it's just a wonderful area. One quick story I wanted to tell. You had mentioned a pond. When I was at Peabody High School, I ran cross country, so we were going through all the track and everything. But the memory that I have was I was a junior in the high school, and we had a science lab. And Mrs. Brett was my teacher, Mrs. Marie Brett. And she took us out to the ponds up behind, back here at the farm. And she was all excited because she had just purchased this new, and I can't remember what it was. It was testing some sort of chemical or something that was in the pond. And she had this, she ordered it, it took months for her to get it. It was this little kind of cylinder type of thing, but it was very heavy. So she was nervous about putting it out we had to get out kind of into the middle of the pond. So she asked me if I could throw it out. So I kind of wrapped it around my finger, and I threw it out into the middle of the pond. Well, the cylinder and my whole skin on my finger was flying into the middle of the pond. And I remember just feeling like the world was coming to an end. I was so upset. that didn't do any nice in Delaware or anything. I actually started to tear up. And that's a memory that I have. It's not a good memory. I didn't mean to go on, but just so many people just done tremendous work. I can't say enough about what Brooksby Farm means to our community in so many ways. As a family gathering area, just a peaceful place. It's a wonderful neighborhood here in Brooksby Farm. And I just want to thank Mike, Judy, Mr. Walker, the Medinas, Tony, everybody, that Mr. Metropolis, everybody that played a role in this. This is really special, and I really appreciate, Mike, what you did and kind of your role in this and keeping this alive. Mayor Bonfanti, we just briefly talked about maybe doing something to commemorate that in some way with a plaque or some sort of memorial somewhere here to recognize all the work that was done to save this farm. But it's really special. So thank you, and thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. That means a lot to me. Yeah, oh, yeah, Shirley. You probably thought I didn't recognize you, huh?
All the way, that's okay, we're both got older. I'm so old that I remember Mr. Pierce up on the hill.
Yes, Dick Pierce.
And during the Cold War, we were coming down here all the time and picking apples and doing everything, all the way from Middleton. But one of the things is Mr. Pierce was going blind, so he had a very, very bright light. And he read with this bright light, and he rocked in a rocking chair. And I remember all kinds of agents all over this place because we were trying to figure out what Mr. Pierce was sending as a code. Russian. Mr. Pierce was just reading along and rocking. There were people everywhere climbing up in the trees and everything. I didn't know if you all knew that, but it was really scary, tell you the truth. I was a child.
I remember Dick well. Yeah, Dick was...
Dick's dad, Archer.
Oh, that was Dick's dad. Oh, she said it was Dick's dad, Archer.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Dick I remember well because Jamie worked underneath him. And I got a time limit here, so basically it's 2 o'clock. It's been an hour. Thank you all so much for coming, and I'll just sit up here and, any questions. Thank you.